Hello, I am Michael Wolfsden. I am a guardian of gpms.world, which is a vehicle solution for humanity and the Earth to move forward into a new world of unlimited abundance, limitless potential and possibility. And all we need to do as individual human beings is choose it, each to their own in their own way. But for now, the most significant practical way we can do this is by going to gpms.world and filling out the consent/voting form, which is essentially a means of putting it for and on the record that you consent to a new future that is limitless in abundance and completely free, where each his own sovereignty is respected, honoured, and we all work together cooperatively for the benefit of all, rather than the majority subsisting and surviving so that only a few may thrive. Recently, I have been building up inside me an energy and a willing, a desire to express myself and to express things that are going on, to talk about things that are going on, and of course, first and foremost, to promote the existence of GPMS as a vehicle for solution and to bring people to it. GPMS does not suggest how we will solve the problems. It simply states that we will, once we all agree on some fundamental things, some fundamental principles, foundational principles. It has been interesting over recent days and weeks how, as I've watched talking heads online, in the legacy media, also in alternative media, language is beginning to shift, and there is a paradigm shift underway, and it is making itself evident in the way in which language is changing, and the way in which that which is in disharmony and which is quote unquote wrong with the world is becoming self-evident. So that we find ourselves in this phase where the self-evidency of the, for lack of a better term, we'll call it the evil, the dark force, and how it has affected us and infected us as individuals and as societies, as communities, etc., is now being awoken to. And that's a shock to the system. It's a huge paradigm shift because it essentially shows us that everything that somebody might have thought to have been true, always has been true and always would be true, now has no truth at all. And often that leaves one bobbing along in an ocean of uncertainty, which is uncomfortable for the one going through it at the time, but it's a necessity and we all go through it, and we're all supposed to go through it. Maybe some can skip past it, and we haven't, or I certainly haven't found that formula yet. So an agreement needs to be reached amongst everyone, regardless of race, creed, colour, religion. Things which are so universal that no position or ideology except that of a satanic origin which seeks only destruction and chaos. Any sound-minded any sound-minded ideology, perspective, way of seeing the world, logical um, culture, creed, religion, whatever, um, something that things which will be universally accepted amongst all of them. We can all think of an example. Murder is wrong. Yeah. So, regardless of race, creed, color, religion, unless you are in a position where you are suffering, you are under some form of psychosis, mental instability, PTSD, something that was causing you to be so off balance that you were unable to perceive the imbalance in your actions, then otherwise you would naturally, without any hesitancy, acknowledge that murder was wrong. You would never try and justify it. What we're basically saying is to bend the labor and resources of the world towards profiting and benefiting an ever-decreasing few at the sufferance of an ever-increasing majority is untenable and will inevitably lead to a moment of seizure. What I mean by seizure is twofold. A seizure is in a stopping of that which is suppressing everyone or attempting to suppress everyone, and a seizure as in a taking back of that which always was the universal heritage of all. Everything on this earth is the equal heritage of all upon the earth, all of its resources. The only reason why people compete over resources is because of the illusion, the delusion that there is a scarcity of resources, which is so far from the truth, it's laughable. There are more than enough resources for each and every being on this planet to live in comfortable, happy, harmonic abundance. Just to live a happy life. And then there will be others who aspire to do other things, greater things. Elon Musk's of the world, for example, engineers, people who want to do things like innovate technology and push the boundaries of what we can do as a civilization. And there will be those who just simply want to be able to live an abundant, free and happy life where they can enjoy themselves, contribute in whatever way they want to contribute, but other than that, just be. And that's okay. It's perfectly okay. But what we have been taught and what we've come to believe is the case is that we have to fight for that, and that we have to do something, anything, to set ourselves apart as individuals from others so that we may receive particular or special levels of attention and therefore resources and reward. We will increase our value in the eyes of a system based on whatever values that system sets, regardless of whether they match with your own personal values. If you fear the lack, you will break your integrity and do away with your own values to dance to the values of another if it perceptually gives you a greater advantage within that system. one of the hardest things to do is to maintain one's own values, with the belief that doing so will in some way sabotage you, cause you to go into lack or lose something. If you have the fear of losing something, there's nothing to lose. Never was. The things that you can lose were never worth that much anyway to begin with. And the things that actually are worth something that you wouldn't want to lose are impossible to lose. Can't be taken away from you. You can't even really give them away, though people seem to try every single day. So yeah. So to begin recording and expressing myself and creating a commentary, I suppose, to some degree or another on ongoing events and circumstances has been brewing in me for a while, but my own personal fear of wanting to make sure I was wise enough to do it right was causing me to procrastinate, because one of my greatest lessons of recent years was the coming to understand how much I didn't know, how much I thought I did knew, how unwise I was, thinking that I knew so much. It's ultimately coming to understand that I knew nothing. And ever since then, my desire to meet the highest standard has always caused me to think twice about making recordings, which I would have never thought twice about before in the past. So that's been what I've had to overcome. See, there's a concept known as reification, and reification is, in essence, that which you talk about, you in essence give energy to, and so therefore if you talk about it in a particular way that reifies it, gives it a substantive place in reality, creates it as a thing that actually is, when it might not be, but you make it more so in not necessarily talking about it full stop, but in the way in which you talk about it is, I think, the more crucial point. You can talk to something, about something, to something, in a way that doesn't reify it. But it can be very easy to slip into talking about something in a way that reifies it. I suppose another way you could look at it is taking it out of context, or taking it, looking at it through a perspective which is lesser, narrower, and from a quote unquote lower point of consciousness, which isn't something you should do when you know better, and all it takes is to look at things from a higher perspective, a higher consciousness position, and to all of a sudden see that that is just a small thing within a much larger mandala of things and events that are ongoing currently. And people get caught up and focused in on one thing as if that is and that will often become the totality of the sphere of their perspective, and everything is hinging upon that thing, whereas really it's a smaller thing, like many more going on infinitely, you could argue, simultaneously, synchronistically, all working together. So I've been aware, self-aware enough to want to make sure that I speak to a higher wisdom, the highest wisdom I can. To try and be consistent with that, to not reify things which don't need reifying, whilst at the same time being able to talk about those things in a way that would give them maybe greater perspective, a higher perspective, a deeper understanding without fixation. Yeah. But for now, this video, this first one now, is an introduction to me, Michael Wolfsden, my primary position as a guardian of GPMS, and my attempt to create commentary and open dialogue from a metaphysical and philosophical understanding of what we are going through as a species, as beings, as I believe we all are, multidimensional, infinite beings of light, and what that exactly means in quote-unquote realistic, practical terms. In essence, it means everything, or it certainly has relevance to everything, but that's for future discussion and exploration. For now, thank you for listening, and yeah, watch this space.